All right, I think we are about ready to begin. I want to say good afternoon and good morning to everyone who's joining us. We have another great turnout for our latest webinar in the NIMBL Lecture Series, Scoping and Planning S4HANA Migrations. I'm your host, Jake Eisbart, part of the marketing team. A little bit about us before we start. We are SAP technologists here at NIMBL and SAP ecosystem thought leaders. Our consulting business, which is 50% of our work, delivers SAP projects, both technical and functional. While our Denver-based SAP Managed Services, the other 50% supports both Fortune 1000 and Midmarket 24/7. Here are a list of some of the services that we offer. Obviously today we will be talking about S4HANA, and here are some of the clients that we work with and customers as well. Before we get started, I want to let everybody know about our SAP Traveling Campus. The SAP Traveling Campus is exactly what it sounds like. It's a mobile training center that comes to your city and provides you with hands-on labs, demos, presentations, a full day of training under subjects for S4HANA, SAP Cloud Platform, Analytics Cloud. They are free to attend, and you see some of the cities that we're coming to. If you're interested in finding out more information, feel free to type TC into the chat box and which city you would like us to consider coming to, and we will take it from there. A little bit about our speaker today. Mike Pytel is a certified SAP NetWeaver, SAP HANA, and Soulman resource. He is author of SAP Press's Implementing SAP Business Suite on SAP HANA, nationally recognized speaker, and presents at SAP conferences across the country. And before I turn it over to Mike, we want to get a little bit of lay of the land in terms of S4HANA. So we're going to give you a couple poll questions. First poll question is, what business processes do you hope to improve with S4HANA? And we have finance and accounting, sales, transportation, and supply chain. I'll give you a couple of seconds to fill that out. We see a number of you. Most of you are saying finance and accounting. And it looks like supply chain is catching up as well. All right. Give it a little bit more time. We have a number of people who are just joining us. All right, let's go to the next poll question. When thinking about your S4HANA project, what project duration are you planning for? We're looking at less than 6 months, 6 to 9 months, 9 months to a year, or more than a year. And at this point, it looks like it's pretty even across the board. Most people looking at 9 to 12 months. All right. And move on to the next poll question. When you move to S4HANA, are you considering a re-implementation? And A is, I'm not sure, what are my options? B is yes, but we want to clean up business processes and data. And C is no, we are comfortable with an upgrade to S4HANA. Give people a little bit more time. All right, great. And our last poll question. Are you beginning to plan for an S4HANA project? A, yes, we're migrating this year. B, yes, we are migrating next year. And C, maybe looking into next year or the year after. And again, it looks like it's pretty much spread out. All right, before I turn it over to Mike, I just want to let everybody know we want to be able to answer as many questions as possible. So if you take a look at the chat box in the lower left-hand corner, feel free to ask any questions, and Mike will address those at the end of the presentation. In addition, everybody on right now will be receiving a fully edited copy of the video. So if you miss a slide, don't worry about it. We will send you a fully edited copy. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mike. Mike, go ahead and take it away.
Fantastic, Jake. And everybody, we'd like to throw out those poll questions because I think it lets the attendees kind of see what are other people thinking about. And we're gonna come back to those poll questions probably at the end of the webinar just to kind of recap those. Today's topic is scoping and planning S4 projects. Now, when talking about S4, a tremendous amount of marketing that goes on with SAP's new platform, and there's a tremendous amount of misinformation in the marketplace as well. And so our goal today is to try to clear up any misinformation and feed you information, feed you data sources that can give you factual evidence of what is it going to look like when you move to S4. We're going to talk about preparing your technical environment for S4. We're going to talk about from a business process perspective, knowing how to plan for what is the innovation that's going to be forced upon me. What business process areas am I going to have to adapt to S4 in the future? Now, in terms of scoping and planning, the first thing we need to do is pick what target release of S4 are we going to go to. And for those of you that have heard me speak before, you know that I've never been a fan of N-1. I feel like N-1 is a very 1990s strategy when it comes to IT, when software testing wasn't great. SAP is producing solid, stable releases. And this year, the go-to release for S4 is called S4 1709, aptly named after being released in September of 2017. And with every S4 release, I want everybody to know how the product is being enhanced and maintained. Because with SAP ERP, we saw innovation delivered via enhancement packages over a 10-year period, right? We had enhancement pack 1 through 8 for SAP ERP 6. And with every enhancement package, yes, we did get technical fixes from SAP as part of a support package stack, but inside of each enhancement pack, we had innovation being delivered, new capabilities, new financial reports, new user interfaces, new ways of executing transactions as part of enhancement packages. SAP has changed the way they're delivering enhancements with S4. You now have this concept of a feature package stack. So with S4 1709, Feature Pack Stack 01 is a release of S4 1709 that includes both a support package and functional enhancements. And I have a live demo system today. We're going to show this as well. But Feature Pack Stack 01 includes new innovation for S4HANA. There will be a Feature Pack Stack 02 later in the year, and then it will move to what's called a maintenance line. So for example, if you're an organization that says, we're going to go to S4 this year, we don't trust 1709, we're going to go N-1. When you look at S4 1610, there are no more enhancements being made for that product. It is in a support package stack only maintenance line now, no new innovation for 1610, and essentially you're paying 22% maintenance, which I call new car prices, for a 2-year-old car, right? S4 1610 released in 2016. It had its 2 feature pack stacks. It's now moved into its maintenance line with support packages, and no new functionality will be delivered there. All new innovation this year is being delivered as part of 1709 Feature Pack Stack 01 and 02. In September of this year, we'll have S4HANA 1809, and again, its new NetWeaver stack being released with its innovation. Okay, so very important as you're planning your S4 projects, you need to understand the feature pack stack concept, because again, to me, it's a travesty if a customer's going live this year on a 2-year-old product, and that product is paying enterprise maintenance of 22%, and you're not going to get any more innovation out of it. So 1709, great release. Stable, stable is obviously with an asterisk, right? There's always the SAP notes we're installing and fixes that we'll find, but for the most part for our customers, 1709 is a great release. In terms of the migration path here, just want to remind everybody you can do a 1-step upgrade and migration to 1709 from any release of SAP ERP on any database. As long as you are Unicode, right? As long as you're a Unicode system today, you can make the 1-step upgrade and migration to S4HANA 1709. You do not need to migrate to Suite on HANA first. You can move directly to S4. The table consolidation conversion process is built into a tool from SAP called the Software Update Manager with database migration option. If you are non-Unicode, then you must first move to Suite on HANA, do your Unicode conversion, and then once you're on Suite on HANA, you then migrate. Now, another common question I get when talking about moving to S4 1709 is, I'm not new GL, I'm classic GL, can I move to S4 directly in 1 step? And the answer is yes. S/4HANA is accepting of all people, whether or not you're old GL or new GL. In terms of the classic general ledger, you won't be able to enable new functionality in the universal ledger in S4 unless you get until your first year end. But in general, just know that as long as you're a Unicode, we can move to S/4HANA 1709 in one step. Now, another common question we get is it technically possible to move to S/4HANA in a single weekend? Right? You're changing your underlying database, you're consolidating tables, I have business processes that are changing. How are you able to get this done in a weekend? And the short answer is people have a perception of, or this idea that if I have a 10 terabyte database, then I'm putting 10 terabyte of data into HANA. And in the real world, when we do these migrations, believe it or not, only 10 to 15% of the data is actually exported from your database. We have an example of a customer, which I'll get to later in the deck. They were a 12 terabyte Oracle database, right? So they were HPUX shop with a 12 terabyte Oracle database. When they got to HANA, right, on go live weekend, 2.1 terabyte, right? Fantastic compression. Only 10% of the data from the database is exported, and we were able to do everything in a weekend. In fact, we were able to do not only the migration to HANA for ERP, but we also moved SCM and BW in the same weekend, right? So super high compression. We are absolutely able to do this in a single weekend. Now, when talking about S/4HANA, we continue to have a conversation with the customers about what release or which version. Now, I already talked to you about my hesitancy or my dislike of the N-1 concept in going to a prior release. 1709 should be the go-to release. Now, there is a release out there called S4 Finance 1605. People often think of S4 Central Finance. The Central Finance scenario is available in 1709 as well. S4 Finance 1605, super stable release of S4, but it has an early end of life. It's end of life in 2020, right? SAP ERP's end of life is 2025. S4 1610, good release. Multiple customers have gone live on it, but again, no more innovation. For S4 1709, I've talked to it before about that. That is my go-to release, and I want to quickly pull up the simplification item catalog. When planning your S4 release, you and your team members need to know what's going to change. Now, this is the first tool that I want to show you about what's going to change. And the simplification item catalog, the way I navigate it is I click View All for all simplifications. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here to make it look better on your screen. And I want to do Show Filter Bar because this is what I love. Select my source release. I'm coming from ERP 6 EHP 7, and I'm going to go to 1709. Show me all innovation delivered from SAP and S4 1709 between my release and my target release, right? And then I can go down to different areas of categorization. I can actually run just a regular search as well and look here, right? So blocked customer supplier inventory management, right? Very detailed information that gives my business analysts information they need to know about moving to S4. It's going to talk about tables, right? It's going to give me SAP notes to read. It's going to talk about piece lists and the custom code activities that might happen when I move to S4. I'm going to show you in a little later how we can take actual data from your system and build an even more narrowly defined list. But this is a fantastic tool from SAP to browse the simplifications that are going to be available to me based on my source and target release. If there's any customers on the phone that are coming from S4 Finance 1605 to 1709, again, we have that same capability, source and target. Wonderful way to get I wouldn't say a high level, but begin to narrow down into what are the innovations that's going to be offered to me. Now, in terms of your 2018 roadmap to S4, I'm sure people have seen me share this slide before. It's adapted a little bit, but ultimately it's just a high-level roadmap of how do I get there, right? Up top, we want to talk about inventorying our business processes and identifying technical prerequisites. These are things you do now before you buy S4 or before you even purchase your HANA hardware. Use Solution Manager to do the business process documentation, the reverse business process documentation. Begin doing your custom code analysis. Identify your integration scenarios. What are the interfaces that I have running? And begin reducing your technical tables. These are things that every customer should be working on, even if you're moving to S4 next year. Let's find the custom code we're going to need to remediate as part of the HANA migration. Let's begin reducing our tables from a technical perspective, right? I'm not saying go and archive your financial documents and sales orders. I'm saying archiving iDocs, deleting logs, getting rid of pools, getting rid of technical table stuff. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to also show you how you can do S4 pilots for very little cost without actually buying S4. We're going to talk about the Cloud Appliance Library and how you can begin to start showing the UI to business users, sort of do a Fiori roadshow with them, begin planning your technical landscape, and then eventually go and buy your licenses and your hardware. And if you're going cloud, fantastic. Do your one-step migration to S4. And we're going to talk about being able to do that migration with minimal business impact, because I think this is the greatest area of misinformation. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Now, SAP Activate. SAP Activate is the methodology used to migrate to S4. SAP Activate replaces the ASAP methodology. And the foundation for SAP Activate is SAP's best practices, which is not some amorphous term that is just thrown around to describe something that doesn't exist. SAP best practices are tangible configuration that you can install in your system to have a best practice S4 system. Now, the most important part of an the S4 migration is what we call the solution validation workshops. And the idea behind solution validation workshops is you bring the business in and you talk to them about, all right, this is the way that SAP best practice works in S4 1709. This is how we plan for demand with MRP in S4. This is how we process invoices. This is how we make payments in S4. Right? You show the business, this is how it's done in S4. Let's talk about how we do it, and are there any gaps? Will this Fiori application in S4 meet our requirements? Ideally, you then develop what's called a backlog. What are the must-have changes, the changes we should make, the changes we could make, and the ones we'd like to make? Prioritize them, have estimates, and then come back and do a Delta Design workshop where you show the business, all right, you told us that process incoming payments transaction in Fiori didn't look right. Right, here's the SAP T code, it still works. Here's the Fiori application that we could adapt or modify to your requirements. And does this sound good to you? They accept it. You move on to sprint and release planning. Right? SAP Activate is where SAP is beginning to integrate the agile methodology into SAP's conversion and upgrades. It's not full agile because we're still running a full integration test at the end and a full user acceptance test at the end instead of doing all of our testing inside of our sprints. But it is very nice to see SAP sort of adapting and moving this way. Now, in terms of an S4 project timeline, we asked a very specific question in the beginning of the webinar. What is your predicted timeline? And now my project lifecycle does start assuming you already have HANA hardware installed in your data center on day one. So project day 0, you've already got the HANA hardware. We know the procurement timelines are that. So when looking at my timeline, assume you've already got your hosting provider or your HANA hardware in place. That's when we start the project. And the prepare phase is when we're exploring the S4 best practices through the S4 demo systems, potentially doing that on premise as well. An explore phase is where we are running our our solution validation workshops. We're talking about the landscape readiness, the business readiness, talking about, all right, what type of training are we going to need as a part of the solution validation workshops? What is our backlog? What's our work effort going to be? We move into realize and deploy, where we actually are running the S4 conversion in a sandbox scenario, doing our data validation, building our Fiori launch pads, doing our regression testing, then our UAT for anything new we're deploying, frequently demoing, right, delivering the end user training, and having our cutover weekend, and then operate and run. We have successfully, and we have some customer case study slides at the end, move customers to S4 in that 5 to 6 month time frame. Holidays, business calendars, those are all different things that we need to take into effect. But what I wanted to convey here is that while, yes, S4 HANA is an opportunity to rationalize your business processes and change the way you do business, and those types of projects are going to take a year. If you are an organization where 80%, 60% of what you do is good, and you do have areas for improvement, and you want to use S4 as an opportunity to do so, these do not need to be 12-month projects, right? Again, day 0, you've already got hardware, and 5 months from then, we're implementing SAP, we're deploying, and we're running S4 HANA. Now, in talking about organizational change management and talking about Fiori, one thing everybody needs to know is that a majority of SAP GUI transactions still exist in S/4HANA. Maintain billing due list is an ST code presented through SAP GUI HTML and not a Fiori application. For our customers that have gone live on S/4HANA, 90% plus of the transaction codes they use on a daily basis still work in S/4HANA. So when thinking about the organizational change management, this does not mean we need to go retrain our entire workforce on Fiori. Yes, Fiori is fantastic, and there are some super cool apps that we can use, but we don't have to. There are areas of innovation where we have been forced upon us. Right? Within Treasury, there's some Treasury applications that are Fiori only. Within asset accounting, the Treasury apps, the Fiori apps are great. Business partners, right? The transaction BP still works in S4, but there are business partners, sort of maintain customer, maintain vendor transactions in Fiori as well that we like. Long story short, you can create tiles inside the Fiori Launchpad that map to SAP T codes with no Fiori development experience needed. Configuring a Fiori tile does not take a Fiori development, right? Creating a Fiori tile that calls an SAP T code is as simple as clicking New Tile, typing in the T code, hitting Save, and you've now created a tile that calls an SAP T code. My screenshot on the right is this is what SAP GUI looks like in S4. And to talk about that a little bit more, I just want to jump out. Into SAP GUI, right? This system here that I'm live demoing for you, just want to show you. So it's evidenced that this is an S4 system where I've logged into, right? So we have S4 HANA 1709 FPSO1, and I am using SAP GUI 750. Now you'll notice the SAP GUI screens are a little bit different, right? So let's just go to a common transaction, FB60. Here you can see the post-transaction is moved to the right. There are no more diskette icons, right? Our menu items are selected here. SAP GUI works with S4. Yes, Fiori is fantastic, but SAP GUI is still usable. And this is how our customers have been able to move to S4 in that 6-month time frame because they're not forcing Fiori on the entire organization. We typically see finance and also the supply chain areas adopting Fiori first at the supervisor, at the manager level. But at the plant level, we're still using SAP GUI. We're not retraining our entire workforce, and we're able to operate in a hybrid landscape. Okay? So talking about, I wanted to hit that SAP GUI myth up front to let everybody know, moving to S4 does not mean I have to move to a completely new UX. You can move to it in a hybrid fashion. And talking about tools, right, we're talking about planning and scoping. What other tools can you use to prepare for, execute, and run your project? Well, the first one that everybody needs to know about is cal.sap.com. The Cloud Appliance Library is SAP's platform for delivering prepackaged SAP application images that can run on Amazon, Azure, or Google Cloud Platform, which enable you to try before you buy. I do not need to have an S/4HANA license before I come out to the Cloud Appliance Library and stand up my own S/4HANA tenant that I can use for my own organization to test and demo. Okay? And so, again, if I type in S/4HANA here and hit search, I can see here I have an S/4HANA system 1709 that is ready for me to activate with no license needed. I can run on Google Cloud, Azure, or Amazon Web Services, and I only pay for the cost of the infrastructure. So my Amazon, my Azure, my bill rates for a HANA system on there. I can tell you that on Amazon, an R4 8 extra large HANA system, which is what this uses, runs about $2,500 a month. And I typically get between a 30 and a 60-day license, and SAP has kind of changed this here and there. But I get DDIC level access. I get the system password. I get everything I need to do to run my own S/4HANA environment on Amazon or on Azure, etc. I get all the passwords. I can log on to the system. I can load my own data. I can do everything I need to do to get a good point of proof of concept or conference room pilot done using the Cloud Appliance Library. Now, I think everybody also needs to know S4 is not the only solution out here. We have solutions out here for business objects, for BW, for HANA, right? When you activate these images, you get fully activated appliances for 30 to 60 days, and you have the ability to create VPN tunnels from those environments to your on-premise systems, let your users load data, live demo to the business, and then when you're done, erase it, right? Get a certificate of instruction from Amazon or Azure. Wonderful way to prototype S4. So that's my first area of enabling customers to see S4 before they buy it, right? We couldn't do that with SAP ERP. You always had to buy it before you could see it. Best Practice Explorer. I wanted to talk about this because, again, I think a lot of consulting organizations throw around the words, are you implementing best practices? We're implementing best practices. What does that actually mean, and what can I touch them? Can I see best practices? What are they? And the short answer is yes, they are tangible items. SAP has best practices for 114 different business processes within S/4HANA. Now they don't have, they don't have every business process in the world covered, but we are seeing these best practice catalogs growing year after year from SAP. These are tangible items that you can install in your environment. As an example, let's open up finance. Advanced financial operations, credit management, all right? I'm clicking on a random one here. Within this area, I'm going to get a couple things. I'm going to get a graphical representation of this business process, which I can also download in a BPMN format and use as part of use as a template to build my own business process flow. All right, so this is an example of a business process for calculation of score, risk class, and credit limit in S/4HANA. This is the SAP best practice for credit management. I get the business process flow in a BPMN format, which is if you have a business process modeling tool, you can do that. I get a test script to test the process, which tells me how to use the Fiori tiles. And then I have the actual configuration guides to go out and configure all the different functionalities to make this business process work. Right? So I no longer need to depend upon an individual's consultant's prior experience or something that someone says they can do. I can come here, I can learn about advanced credit management, I can configure it on my loan, I have the configuration guides, I have the visual representation, and for those of you that are innovative enough, you can integrate this into Solution Manager where that business process example that I showed you can be used by your business analyst to adapt to your own. Right? You can change the way that business process looks. You can add your own interfaces, add your own business process steps, et cetera, et cetera. Super cool, super tangible, highly reusable. This is where, if you have anybody in your organization who wants to know what a new module looks like in S4 or new functionality they're going to be deploying, Best Practice Explorer is the single best way to do that. Next, I want to talk about, again, scoping and planning. All right, I've shown you how to get S4 before you buy it. I've shown you the best practices and how to explore at the business process level. Maybe you need some examples around, based on what I do today, what business processes in my ERP system would be most impacted by the S4 migration. SAP created the Business Scenario Recommendations Report, and it takes a look at the transaction usage that you have inside of your ERP system, right? What are the T-codes programs that people are using inside of your ERP system today, and map those to S4 enhancements and tell me what business areas, based on my current usage, would I most benefit from by moving to S4. Very easy process to do. Navigate to s4hana.com. You say, I'm interested, get started. You follow the prompts. You upload data from your ERP system, ideally a production system in there, up to SAP. 5 days later, you're going to get a PDF report. The PDF is somewhere between 70 and 90 pages, and it breaks down all the way at the highest level down to the lowest level. What are the T-codes and programs your users use, and how would that be impacted if you move to S4? Again, helping you build that business case, helping you understand what's new with S4 and how is it going to impact your system. I talked already about Solution Manager 7.2. I think everybody here knows that NIMBL wrote we wrote the Solution Manager 7.2 book. We believe strongly in Solution Manager 7.2. And this is where I have the ability to take those best practice process flow templates. I showed them to you in the browser. I have the ability to take those templates from SAP best practices, load them into Solution Manager, and then make changes to them. I can author against it, right? I can add swim lanes. I can change different activities. I can link to ZT codes, et cetera, et cetera. A way to more, if I'm an organization that's interested in beginning to graphically document how I use SAP, this is how I do that. Continuing on, S/4HANA Readiness Check, a fantastic tool from SAP. And the two notes that you need installed are displayed on screen there, 2399707, 2502552. When you install these notes, you get an ABAP program that will analyze the configuration tables inside of ERP, and based on business data in tables and based on configuration data in configuration tables, make the determination that you are using this functionality in SAP ERP, and this is how that functionality will be impacted when you move to S/4HANA 1709. On screen, it may be an eye chart for some of you. You can see here I have some red lights. Business partners in S4 are different than ERP. Storage locations are different. Contract management, enhancements in subcontracting with special stock types. These are functional areas inside of my ERP system that I'm using today that will be impacted on the move to S4. This report is an ABAP, again, it's an ABAP report that's installed in your system. You must run it in the background. It does take some time to complete. This ABAP report is technically called when you run the upgrade to S4, because the way SAP built their upgrade migration utility is it comes back to this report and says, hey, I've got 5 process areas here that are red light. I want you, Joe customer, to manually acknowledge that you've read this note. Otherwise, the upgrade utility to S4 will not process. Right? For the basis people on the phone, if this report has any red lights that go unacknowledged, the upgrade and migration utility will not let you run the upgrade to 1709 until complete. So 100% required to move to S4. You can install this note on any release of ERP, and it must be installed on every ERP system that is moving to S4. Wonderful report. Use it today if you can. Now, SAP also has an online readiness check tool where I can, again, install some SAP notes and run an analysis, export that analysis to a zip file, upload it to the SAP support portal, and you can see here on my screen, again, it's pointing out data model changes in sales. It's pointing out deprecation of project systems functionality that I've been using, etc. Me as a customer, I have the ability to forecast what will my impact be by going to S4. I don't need to go into these projects blind. You should be able to forecast, very narrowly forecast, my level of ABAP support needed, my level of SD support needed, transportation, finance, right? We can go into these migrations and upgrades, eyes wide open, know exactly who needs to be involved. In terms of getting that done, that online readiness check tool, SAP Notes, right? Or have your basis person ready, buy them some donuts. We have to get these notes installed. You run the programs that are specified in these notes, and then you go to the Readiness Check website and upload it. Absolutely fantastic. All right, now getting S4 done, I've talked about S4, the tools available within S4 that from SAP that I love. There are still some third-party tools that I think are fantastic as well. You have SAP Enable Now and User Experience Management by Noah. I won't spend a ton of time on these topics. I just want to let you know that they're there. With SAP Enable Now, when deploying the Fiori UI, if your user needs help with an application, right, we typically are building SharePoint sites or file shares with Word documents and videos and SharePoint documents. SAP Enable Now, as you can see on screen here on the right, when a business user clicks the question mark button for help, it presents an overlay on the screen that provides me with educational content about that application. Right? So in browser, educational content built on top of the Fiori applications, showing the business user how to use these applications. Super cool. It is a third-party product. I'm sure it's not cheap, but it is a fantastic way to deliver educational content to your business users. SAP User Experience Management by Noah, another way where SAP, where this application allows you to collect data on how your users use Fiori or SAP GUI, and you can begin to extrapolate or have analytics around where are they spending their time, how many errors are they getting on screen, what business processes are slow from a site-to-site perspective, from a user population-to-user population perspective, passively collect data, and then proactively reach out saying, hey, it looks like in the approved timesheet application, over the past year, we've been averaging 55 error messages a day within that Fiori application. There's either something wrong with our data, something wrong with the training that we've done, or there's something wrong with the application. Let's go out and figure it out. We rely upon our super user networks, but if you're an organization that your super user network has broke down or lost faith in IT, use the user experience management by NOAA to collect data on how people are using the applications, find the areas that they're struggling, and make changes, right? That's a fantastic tool. Again, I think it provides visibility that IT just didn't have in the past. In terms of building the business case, it's different for every customer. No implementation is the same. I think it's very difficult for an implementation partner to sort of give you an all-in price for moving to S4. At NIMBL, we break S4 projects into 2 phases. Your explore phase, where we run our workshops and figure out what's going to be in scope, what's going to be out of scope, and then we run the realize phase separately. We break it into 2 phases because it's very difficult for us to forecast the cost of the realize phase if we don't run the explore phase. Me personally, or us at NIMBL here today, we've kind of broken down the drivers for S4 into 4 areas: user experience, analytics, business process improvements, and IT cost reduction. Now, from a user experience perspective, and I'm just going to tab out real quick and go ahead and reload my screen because I have my Fiori Launchpad. Oh, timed out. I think, obviously, everybody gets that Fiori is fantastic and applications are intuitive, and I have multi-browser support, multi-device support. That's great, right? I think the most undersold feature of Fiori is enterprise search. So here I have my Fiori Launchpad, and I've got 200 tiles on my screen, which is not reasonable. No one would really have that many things. But what I'm using here is enterprise search, right? And so I am searching the word demo, and it's going to automatically search through all of these different types of business documents or resources inside of S4 for me, right? A single piece of text, search my entire S4 system, show me everything that's relevant related to that. And so I searched the word demo, and that returned 1 journal entry, 4 bombs, 9 materials, a couple planned orders, some sales orders, etc. Right? When a customer service rep is working, wants to know about sales orders for a customer, we do not see them entering S4 and clicking on the sales order tile. They're not doing that. They're typing the word Walmart, or they're typing the word Cintas up top. Right? We type the word demo. Now I have my journal entry. So I click on the journal entry, and then I can see related documents. And in related documents, I can see the purchase order, the invoice, or the accounting documents, right? And if I want to go look at the purchase order, I go display the purchase order fact sheet, right? Users are navigating S4 not by using tiles, but by using enterprise search, right? They're just picking up a piece of text, a customer name, a PO number, something like that. They're doing a search. And so right now you saw 1,000 results. I typed the word material, 1,000 results pops up here. I have, in my finance AC DACA table alone, I have 70 million records, right? 70 million records, and it returned 584 results that fast, right? So enterprise search for me is the single greatest enhancement to the user experience when moving to S4. Yes, there's mobile. Yes, there's multi-browser. Yes, yes, yes. There's lots of other things. Enterprise search is what every business user loves, but you'll never hear SAP reps talk about it. The other pillar of our business case is analytics, right? I have BW developer empathy because I never really understood why does it take a BW developer so long to give me a report. And if we just look at this line up here, this first line right here, if I need a BW report from a developer, they have to activate an extractor from SAP, move the data into a PSA, then put it into a DSO, then maybe aggregate the data if there's a lot of it, build an info provider, build a BEX query, and then it'll be like a BEX query, or it'll go to business objects, right? I have 5 different objects I need to build in order to get a report out to a business user. And that's why it takes me 5 days, because I give them a report, they say I'm missing a column, then I got to go back, I got to modify my extractor, my PSA, my DSO, my aggregate, my info provider, my BEX query. Right? With S4HANA, whether you're using Analytics Cloud or Business Objects or Lumira, I have direct reporting on that data. Right? Multiple use cases here. We have some questions coming up. I want to do that. What I wanted to talk about is S4HANA gives you the ability to use multiple front ends and connect directly to the data. SAP built a tremendous amount of analytical views inside of S4 based on CDS programming. If you don't know about or haven't learned about CDS programming, it is the future of development within SAP. CDS objects are used in Fiori, in analytics, operationally, within ERP, within transactions. They're used analytically as well. Every ABAP developer on the phone, W developer on the phone, you need to be learning CDS because this is the future. With our S4 project for our consumer packaged goods company that went live last year, we at Go Live, we created 2 virtual data models for cost plan versus actual, right? This is an example of a Fiori report for cost center plan versus actual. We built 2 data models. The business ate it up, loved that it was real time. We brought together data sources from SAP and non-SAP, brought it together real and live so that the cost center plan versus actual is always up to date every minute of the day. Between the go live and 6 months later, that customer has now created 70 different virtual data models based on CDS programming, and they have connected Webby, Analysis for Office, Lumira to those objects. Their business is eating up embedded analytics. One of the single greatest selling points of S4 is embedded analytics. Now, from a business process improvement perspective, this is one that is more difficult to pin down because you need to get out into the business and figure out what do people want, how do they want to change their business processes in order how do they want to, where are their pain points within specific business process areas so that we can go figure out are there functionalities in S4 or capabilities of HANA that we can take advantage of in order to fix those problems. Right? We had one area where one customer where on-hand inventory growth was not linear with sales. So sales was increasing by 6%. Fantastic. Companies growing, sales increasing 6%, but it wasn't relative to their on-hand inventory. Their on-hand inventory was increasing 20%. Right? So great that we're selling more, but I actually have less cash on hand because my WIP was increasing. Right? Material coverage. Being able to run MRP at any moment of the day. One example from a customer is Walmart was a major buyer of their goods. And Walmart would send an EDI order in at 1 p.m. in the afternoon for a large quantity of product. Now, in ERP, MRP doesn't run until the evening. So that large EDI order came in at 1 p.m. MRP ran the next day at night. Production orders are ready on the shop floor the next morning. That wasn't fast enough, right? With MRP Live and the ability to trigger MRP dynamically, interactively throughout the day, now that 1 p.m. EDI order comes in from Walmart at 1 p.m. At 1:10, CSR notifies someone in production planning that this big EDI order just came in. That planner then runs MRP. Then they have something like this, which is the material shortage dashboard. Super innovative, super cool. At a material level, look at my demand, look at my supply, what are all my purchase requisitions that are outstanding, what are my planned orders that are existing out there, and simulating, do I have enough to meet this demand? And if I don't, here on the bottom we can see S4 making recommendations that, hey, you have 2 vendors that you can buy this from. What about if we let's simulate us buying 100 pieces from this vendor and 100 pieces from that vendor, or simulating what if we got this production order, this planned order into production tomorrow, and we know our capacity is X, we can deliver this in Y, right? Being able to simulate that. Super innovative apps delivered as part of S4 that can only be powered by HANA because there's significant computations that are going on in the background, simulating that, right? Fantastic innovations for the supply chain in S4. I don't know if there's any MRP folks on the phone. In ERP, SAP ERP, MRP is infinite. It assumes you have unlimited people, unlimited machines, unlimited warehouse space. You have infinite capacity for building things, right? With S4 1709 and 1610, we now have capacity-based planning native to S4. Never had that before. We have GATP, Global Availability to Promise, native to S4. I used to have to buy SAP Supply Chain Management, SCM, to get GATP. It's now built inside of S4. Other areas where when we're talking about planning our S4, scoping our S4 product, SAP is now building machine learning extensions for S4. Now everybody knows the word Leonardo, and Leonardo is a fantastic name. It's right. It's like Siri and Alexa and everybody else, right? Cool name. It's a person's name. Leonardo is a combination of multiple services on the cloud platform. And these services work outside of PowerPoint. In this example here, I'm talking about using machine learning to process bank statements. This extension is available today, whereby a bank statement comes in from a bank in a PDF format. You can leverage Leonardo's machine learning to OCR that bank statement, to read that bank statement, and perform the reconciliation activities in S4, and then present your accountant with any exceptions that Leonardo was not able to figure out, right? Leonardo, it sounds like a thing of the past. A lot of customers talk about, when we talk about Leonardo, they say, we don't have any use cases, we don't know what we can do. Leonardo, it also sounds expensive, right? I think that's one thing that we also hear about a lot is that Leonardo is expensive. Machine learning on SAP Cloud Platform is $8 an hour. That is the list price. And if you're a good negotiator, I'm sure you're going to negotiate that down. These machine learning extensions should absolutely be considered as you look to do S4. We're not looking to replace people's jobs, obviously, but we are looking to take personnel with our environment and take them from tactical to strategic. So SAP CAS application is the one I just showed, where a bank statement is OCR'd and reconciled automatically within S4, and then any exceptions are presented to someone in treasury or cash management, right? We have other extensions that SAP is building within SD, within procurement, within production as well. You're going to see those coming out throughout the year. And you also have the ability to bring your own models, right? We can do OCR of any document type. We can make rules. You can load in a bunch of data to build your own machine learning model. And again, SAP's Machine Learning Foundation, $8.70 an hour is the list price. So I don't want anybody to leave this webinar thinking that NIMBL's only recommending expensive solutions. This is available today, and it's not expensive. Talking about expensive items, people always say, well, SAP HANA, it's in memory, it's going to be expensive. They're worried about the cost. A couple of things. If we take our CPG customer that went live on HANA last year, they were the typical SAP customer. They had Sandbox, they had Dev, they had QA, they had production, right? They had four landscapes, right? So you now multiply that for ERP, for CRM, for BW. Throw in a little BPC, throw in a little GRC. All of a sudden now, when you're running on DB2, I've got 36 databases within my SAP landscape supporting my SAP environment that I have to manage the operating system, storage, patching, firmware, et cetera, right? When that customer moved to HANA, they moved to 4 HANA appliances, where within each SAP HANA appliance, there was a tenant for the specific applications. BW, CRM, and ERP sharing a single HANA tenant. One piece of hardware, one database to manage, one database to back up, one database to patch. Now, you do give up some release independence when consolidating, but from an IT administration perspective, moving to the multi-tenant concept for that organization drastically simplified IT maintenance. Additionally, for another organization in the South, another consumer packaged goods company based in Atlanta, moving to SAP HANA kicked the archiving can down the road. This customer had been live on SAP since 1999, had been running archiving projects, but like most of us, hadn't had a lot of success. We have legal requirements, we have business requirements, and nobody can agree on anything, and we all know that archiving consultants don't fall out of trees. When that customer moved to HANA, they were 12 terabyte originally on Oracle, 2.1 on top of HANA. When you're talking about HANA appliances don't get super expensive until you get above the 6 terabyte level, right? When you get to the 6 terabyte level, 8 terabyte, 10 terabyte level, the price of a HANA appliance is not linear. It doubles and quadruples, et cetera, et cetera. when you're under a 4 terabyte limit on HANA, this displaces archiving projects, right? We don't need to run archiving projects that are expensive and time consuming when we move to S4 because of our table simplifications and table reductions. I could do a whole webinar just on that topic. But moving on to lessons learned. Interfaces, right? We need to validate that ABAP code that we have in our systems is not referencing DB-specific functionality, database-specific functionality, or that we have undocumented interfaces writing the file systems. When you move to S4, this is typically an opportunity for you're changing your database, yes, but you're also changing your application servers a lot of the time, moving to lower cost hardware, moving to lower cost operating systems like SUSE or Red Hat. Third-party add-ons, can't say enough about that. In the real world, SAP customers don't run add-ons, or in the real world, not every customer runs add-ons that are certified. That CPG customer in California that I keep talking about, they ran a third-party add-on where it was a great piece of software. The company went out of business, and they never got their product certified by SAP. They moved to S4. The add-on still works. Right? So you need to be looking at those things. Another lesson learned, constant underestimation of Fiori security. SAP Fiori security adds to your security concept, your role concept, adds complexity. Your security team members are going to be working a lot more when you move to Fiori because you're no longer securing T codes, you're securing Fiori catalogs and tiles. Now, business partner conversion, another area where if you have customers in a certain number range and vendors in another number range, and when you migrate to S4, those number ranges need to be maintained. Throw in, you may have an employee HR MiniMaster in there. Now your employees need to be thrown into the business partner process. When you move to S4, there is no customer master, there is no vendor master, there is no employee master, everybody's a business partner. And when they're a business partner, they have the role of vendor, the role of customer, or the role of employee, or they have the role of all three. That is detailed planning has to occur in the business partner conversion. You can start the business partner conversion process today before ever buying S4. There's just a lot of focus needs to be applied there, and it's a cross-functional focus as well. My major lesson learned on the end there is you can't go spend $1 million or so or less, $500,000 on moving to S4 and not incrementally innovate. We need to cherry pick innovation areas within S4 and give those to the business. Otherwise, they're going to see no value. Why did I support this test cycle? Why did I support this project if you didn't give me any benefit? So make sure you're including innovation there. Talking about customers, I want to get to some questions. We're going to send this deck out to attendees. We're also going to be sending this out to YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, you'll be able to watch this. I want to talk a little bit about custom code analysis. You do not need to have fear that when you move to S4, all of your custom code is going to break. All right, when SAP consolidated table structures, meaning they took 23 finance tables and moved everything into one, the AC DACA table, let's say you have a custom program that's using the BSEG table. Does that mean your ABAP program will no longer run on S4? The answer is no. It will absolutely run. It runs perfectly on S4, and the reason why, SAP was pretty smart. They do have some smart people that still work there. They virtualized all those tables that they consolidated into the AC DACA table so that when your custom ABAP program calls BSEG, the call to BSEG is redirected to the specific columns inside the AC DACA table. In fact, when you go to SC11 and you look up BSEG, it still looks like it's there in S4, but it's physically not. It is redirected at the kernel level to the AC DACA table. So we have not had a ton of work here, but you can forecast all of the work that you need to do. Without buying S4 today, you can run the ABAP on HANA impact analysis with the SAP Code Inspector, and you have the opportunity to run the S4 custom code impact analysis using SAP Notes. You can do that all on your own. Pulling some slides out of a ASIC presentation that we gave at Sapphire last year. We talked about Dole packaged foods and them moving to S4 last year. Let's talk a little bit about their objects. With the SAP Code Inspector, we had approximately 163 objects that came across as an error, meaning based on SAP's ABAP's code scanning tool, they had 163 programs that were error and absolutely wouldn't run. They had 874 warnings, 823 informational messages. They had 1,800 objects that SAP told them as part of the Code Inspector they would need to modify. Now, when we came down at the end of the day, looking through objects, looking at things that weren't used and were used, it came down to an average of 1.21 hours an object to remediate when we were looking at S4. We tackled essentially, all the objects, informational warnings, and errors. We left no stone unturned. We had 3 developers kind of do this over a month. Very easy to do. Now, if your code inspector comes back at more than these objects, then there are third-party tools to help you through this process as well. But I wanted to share from an ASAC presentation that our customer gave, so to help you forecast your hours, right? If you run your code inspector analysis reports, how much time am I reasonably going to forecast to do this? 1.2 hours is kind of an estimate that we use. Now, in terms of more information, I've listed some URLs out here: the conversion guide, the simplification browser, the best practices package, and the Cloud Appliance library. Essential for you all to know as you begin planning your process. With that, I would like to open it up for questions. We have about 4 minutes. I'm hoping some additional people can stay.
All right. So I want to thank everybody who's willing to stick around. Mike said he is willing to stick around to ask. We have a lot of questions, and I do want to say that if we don't get to if we don't get to your question, we will follow up. And we can start a conversation there. So let's get right to the questions. Andy asks, are there NetWeaver version requirements for migration from ECC 6?
I mean, Andy, the short answer here is yes. There's an asterisk with everything. There are support. If you're on a really old version of ECC, like ERP6 Enhanced Spec 0, you're going to need to be on the most recent NetWeaver support package stack. That's just a fact of life. So you can't be, the customer that doesn't touch your system for 10 years. You do need to be on a relatively recent release. I can send you the SAP note that talks about that. Now, the next question I have, from 2 questions from Prasanna, is what happens to your current hardware where ERP resides? The short answer is it's your choice. If you want to continue using your application servers for your ERP application servers as S4 application servers, they stay as is where they are. Our customers use this opportunity a lot to refresh those, upgrade to the latest version of Windows or latest version of Linux, etc. Next question, can we use the current ERP license and carry to S4, or should we buy completely new licenses? You do need to buy your S4 license. That question is best suited for your SAP account executive. I can tell you that you do need to buy the SAP HANA Runtime license and your S4 HANA licenses. At that time, you can reevaluate, are there different user types you want to buy or move to, like the self-service users or limited professional, etc. So do talk to your SAP account executive or an SAP or a NIMBL SAP account executive as well, because they have the ability to quote licenses here at NIMBL. Continuing on, we have another question of, can we have a few examples of existing ERP functionality where we can implement it in Simple Finance and some of logistics? In short, to answer that question, you can use MRP classic scenarios in S4. You can use procurement classic scenarios in S4. Again, going back to our other customers, 90% of what they were doing, they could still do in S4, but they selectively chose to innovate by using the MRP Live functionality, the material shortage applications, the cash management applications. You can still use SAP T codes, right? They still work. They're tangibly still there. I can still execute them. My security model still works, etc. Ideally, I'd move to SAPGUI 750, which I get the look and feel change. A majority of business process areas still work. Now, we want you innovating, though, and we want you moving to Fiori. Moving on, let's see. Is the next release going to be 1808 or 1809? The answer to that is yes. The next release of S4 HANA is going to be 1809, released in September of 2018. The roadmap is obviously still being built. Question from John Russell. Would you say a technical upgrade option exists? Much documentation starts off saying that S4 cannot be a technical upgrade, always functional. John, I think in this presentation I tried to answer that question by saying we do need to move to the universal ledger, which is forced upon us. We do need to move to the business partner concept. We do need to move in specific areas there are functional changes. The way you're going to best figure that out for yourself is by running the S/4HANA Simplification Item Check that I showed earlier in the slide deck. And that's going to provide you a detailed analysis of what functional areas you are using today in ERP that you will absolutely have to adapt to when you go to S/4. That said, you can say the word technical upgrade, you can say the word conversion, you could say the word migration. To me, I am a proponent of the in-place upgrade and migration to S/4HANA 1709. Yes, there is a table conversion that happens. Yes, there is a user experience conversion that happens. I am not a proponent of greenfield or brownfield or whatever you want to call it, where we are standing up a new instance. Converting data from an ERP system into an S/4 system using SAP Data Services will be very challenging. You have the SAP best practices the SAP best practices for data services when going into S/4, yes, but you're going to have to go through all of your data. You're going to have to go through SAP's logic on their table consolidation. Super difficult. I'm more of a fan of upgrading our S/4 instance. Let's see here. So with the embedded analytics, I don't have to depend upon business objects consultant for a report. The short answer to that persona is, unfortunately, and I hate to use it depends, you have the query browser utility built inside of S4 where customers can build their own queries inside of S4. If you need printed reports where you want a flash report kind of sent out on a daily basis, or a printed report like a Crystal Reports type format or a Webby format, you're absolutely going to need a business objects developer. Our goal, the way that we show customers now, is using Analysis for Office, which is the Excel plugin, connecting directly to S4 and allow business users to explore CDS views that they have access to as part of their Fiori transactions. So connecting them to the CDS view for customer orders, connecting them to the CDS view for purchasing or purchase requisitions, connecting them to the CDS view for the AC DACA table to do their own financial analysis. Our goal is to get to that nirvana of self-service analytics. S4 moves you to their a little bit closer. Question from Deepak: how is authorization controlled in S4 when we have Fiori tiles? Do you have the control for authorizations in Fiori like you did before? So in SAP ERP, we have a T code, and when you added a T code to a role, it automatically brought in the auth objects for that T code. Very easy for a security person to do their job. With Fiori, it is a little bit different. We have a Fiori catalog. We have a Fiori group. We have OData services, and those OData services then have auth objects. And so, for example, if I add FB60 to my role, I'm going to get auth objects related to FB60. If there's a Fiori equivalent of FB60 for processing invoices, that Fiori tile would have an OData service. When I gave myself FB60, I don't get the OData service, right? I need to add the Fiori catalog, the Fiori group, to my role in order to get the OData services and the authorization to do so. So the authorization concept changes and is more complex. Leona said, there seemed to be no mention of personas. Is that phasing out? Absolutely not. Love personas. Love the new Slipstream engine. Personas still has a place in my heart. I am on a Persona Power Play. If you check out the SAP Screen Personas YouTube channel, still a big fan there. Personas is still alive and well. And I don't know if any of you heard, but SAP Personas SPO6 is now mobile with what's called the Slipstream engine. So great question there about Personas. Sorry for not bringing that up. It is alive and well. Kalidas asked the question, is there a specific level of Solution Manager required to migrate from ECC to S4? The non-SAP answer here is no. I do not need any specific version of Solution Manager to migrate to S4. Should you have it? Yes. Should you eat more kale? Absolutely. It's good for you, just like Solution Manager. Solution Manager's business process documentation tools will help with your S4 migration. Solution Manager's monitoring tools will help you monitor your new HANA environment, your new ABAP application servers. Solution Manager will help you with change management, with testing. Solution Manager is absolutely an important part of your S4 migration, but I cannot tell you that it is absolutely required. We had one S4 project last year where the customer was running Solution Manager 7.1, and we migrated them to S4. They didn't use Solution Manager last year, and they don't use it this year. That is unfortunate. It's not what we want, but it is facts. Just not everybody has the capacity or the appetite. Next question from Tony Wall. Will other SAP GUI themes be available like the standard themes? Belize is the future. Belize is where everybody's going. I would just get used to it. We want a similar user experience between SAP GUI and Fiori and Personas and the SAP Cloud Platform. Success factors. I don't know if you're aware, but at Business Objects 4.2 SPO5, Business Objects now has a Fiori Launchpad with a Belize theme. SuccessFactors has a Belize theme. Ariba is going to have the Belize theme. Everybody's gone Belize. I hear it's a great country in the summer and winter. Another question from Tony. Will changes in business partner affect CRM systems? The answer is essentially yes. Now, if you're using the CIF framework, the Composite Information Framework between CRM and S4, when you migrate to S4, SAP takes care of the CIF framework for you. You still obviously need to do some validation, etc. But the CIF framework is now adapted in S4 for Business Partner rather than Customer Master. And for you, Tony, specifically, if you have SAP CRM in your environment, you do need to know that as of S4 1709 FPSO1, SAP CRM 7.0 Enhancer Pack 4 can be installed as an add-on to S4 1709 for the sales and service scenarios. So SAP CRM installed as an add-on for S4 1709 FPSO1. Super cool. Another way that we can reduce our SAP landscape. Will transportation management be fully integrated into S4 by the next release? You know, Persona, TM is already available as both a separate integrated and separate scenario. I would encourage you to go to the Roadmaps website to find out that answer. That's where I go to read the tea leaves as well. How good do you think best practices are? Do they include any exception processes? John, the question there about best practices for me personally is, it's a great starting point. It's a great way for you, your business analysts, to learn about standard SAP. What are the standard Fiori applications? What are the standard T codes? What are the IMG products, IMG menu items that are used in the configuration of those business processes? We all know, number one, every SAP customer thinks we're special, but we're all very similar. The best practices package is Happy Path, right? It's a very simple business process. It's an easy way to get things done. It doesn't have those exception processes that you're talking about. So you do need to take those with a grain of salt. Satish has, I think, a question about we are ECC6 HP3 with SQL Server 2014. Absolutely, you could migrate direct to, you could migrate 100% direct to S4 in one step. John Russell, what is a good framework to determine whether to use a transaction in compatibility mode versus Fiori versus enhanced functions such as Leonardo? John, we probably could do a whole webinar on this topic. Going back to SAP's Fiori concepts, if you look at an SAP T code like MMO2, I might have 4 to 5 different job functions using the same T code. Someone from production planning goes into MMO2, someone from engineering, someone from finance, someone from procurement, right? I have 5 different users in my organization that might use MMO2 or MMO3 because I have the different perspectives, the sales perspective, the distribution perspective, master data perspective, the finance perspective, etc. The concept behind SAP Fiori and Fiori applications is that each Fiori application is tailored to a job function or a job role because the application should be simple and intuitive to use. So we want to use Fiori as much as possible because theoretically it should be easier and more intuitive for the user to use. It should be better. It should be more responsive. It should be easier to interpret interpret the data, and it should give me the information I need more quickly. When moving to S4 1605, 1610, when we were building Fiori Launchpads, we would build a Fiori Launchpad for a user that had their standard SAP T codes presented as tiles so they could do business as is in one Fiori group. And in a Fiori group directly below that, we would present them the new Fiori transactions so that if they so chose to use the new Fiori functionality, they could use those tiles as well. And so we presented these users with a hybrid approach. Here's your T code you've known and loved for 15 years. And oh, by the way, here's the Fiori tile that replaces that T code in the future. So with that, everybody, I wanted to thank you so much for joining today. We did go 10 minutes over. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. Please look out on YouTube for this session or reach out via the chat window here, Q&A. Let us know if you want a specific follow-up item. We'll get it answered. Thank you again for your time.